Hi all. Are you struggling to write a good essay answer for your A-level law exams? Or just looking to improve your essay writing skills? Welcome to the A-level law essay channel, where I will clear your doubts about academic essay writing. In today's episode we're going to be covering the topic on jury and whether or not their role in the justice system has become redundant. As this is part 1 of the video, I will only go through the contents of the answer with you and deal with the essay in part 2 of the video. As usual, I have prepared a few surprises for you in this video, so stay tuned to find out what it is this time. Before we begin, please subscribe to my channel for more video guides on essay writing and many other interesting topics. With that said, let's get started with part 1 of video guide number 5. Question. Today's question reads: their role of jurors is becoming increasingly redundant. It is time for the justice system to get rid of this archaic practice of involving lay members with court matters. Based on the statement above, discuss the involvement of jurors and consider if we should actually get rid of the jury in the justice system. From the question we can infer that it covers the chapter jury. And the focus of the question asks us to consider the jurors' involvement in the justice system, and whether or not we should get rid of them. Introduction. Before we address the question on jurors, we should first briefly define the justice system and how the civil and criminal courts work. The reason for this brief definition is because of how jurors are related to the justice system. And it is because of this connection we can now briefly define jurors and the jury system. As for the thesis statement, in order to decide if the jury should be removed from the justice system, we should critically consider the advantages and disadvantages of their involvement in the justice system. Point 1. Here is the bridging point between the introduction and the main content of the essay itself. It is important for us to develop our essay first so that it leads to the addressing of the focus of the question. This is so that our content will make more sense later. Here is where we discuss the origins of the jury and its importance in the justice system. A case on point should be Bushell's case, 1670, where we will have to stress the importance of the jury's role. After that, we will briefly explain their purpose in both the civil courts and criminal courts. Points to consider are the fact that they judge the character or reputation of a defendant, and that in deciding on cases they would either reach a unanimous or majority verdict. However, note that we do not mention about the advantages and disadvantages of their role yet, as we only give the plain facts concerning their purpose. We should reserve this discussion for the part where we are actually addressing the question in the main content of the essay. Point 2. From here on, we will be addressing the focus of the question. To start off, we will discuss the qualifications and selection of jurors in detail. These two aspects of jurors must be emphasized, and its importance related to their involvement with the justice system, that is, the actual advantages of actually having them in the justice system. One of the highlights should be the fact that jurors are selected from the electoral registrar at random so as to ensure a broad cross-section of society is involved. Explain that this will help minimize the possibility of bias amongst jurors during a trial. However, at the same time we should also discuss the flaws of the whole qualification and selection process by giving examples such as the issue of excusals and disqualification because of incapacity. These issues will inevitably cause more problems than solutions for the jury service because of the great hurdle to make sure that the composition of the jury box is perfect. It is now time for a surprise. Today's surprise is: people are awesome. That was pretty awesome. Now, let's get back to the video tutorial. Point 3. In this part we will be discussing about the actual involvement of the jurors in a court trial by highlighting and explaining some of the actual things that they have to do in both courts. These are their participation during the trial itself, and most importantly the part where they will have to retire in private to deliberate on their verdict before appearing in open court again to deliver their verdict. With some of the actual duties highlighted, its advantages and disadvantages should then be emphasized and related so as to illustrate the importance of their involvement with the justice system. One very important point to highlight is that jurors make decisions on their verdict independently and without outside influence, because if there is, then the whole trial will be compromised. That is where we get to the disadvantages of jury involvement in court trials. As much as jury decisions are made in secret, there is the problem with jury nobbling. I mean nobbling. Haha, I just said nobbling. Or jury tampering, where the impartiality of the jurors are compromised due to various reasons. Point 4. Before we conclude the essay, it will be good to critically evaluate all that has been discussed in the previous 2 points. This critical analysis will also give more depth to the content of the essay as a whole. Therefore here, the point of the evaluation should be directed at the part where we have to consider all the points highlighted and discussed in points 2 and 3 so that we can come to a decision as to either support the idea of removing the jury from the justice system or that we should keep them. Apart from that, we should also briefly provide and discuss some of the alternative to jury system, especially if the discussion has so far been leaning more towards the removal of the jury system. Even if the discussion has been evenly spread, it will also be good to mention some of the alternatives. Some of the alternatives that can be highlighted are trial by a single judge, or to opt for a minute jury. Conclusion. Keep the conclusion simple. After all, we should not put in any new points but to summarize all that we have discussed. So, we should just highlight some of the points that we hold the most emphasis on, and then move on to use it as justification for our conclusion on whether or not we should get rid of the jury system from the courts. Review. Before we end, let's have a quick review on the content guide. In the introduction, we briefly defined the justice system and the jury whilst making some relation between the two before we moved on to the thesis statement stating our objective for the whole essay. In point 1, we developed our essay by bridging the gap between the introduction and the focus of the content by briefly explaining how the justice system works in relation to the jury's purpose. Points 2 and 3, we endeavored to discuss the qualification, selection and actual involvement of the jurors in court trials, and considered their advantages and disadvantages. Point 4 is where we have critically evaluated the involvement of lay jurors in the justice system by considering some of the important points that we have highlighted in points 2 and 3, and after that gave some suggestions on the alternatives. We concluded it by highlighting our justification for either keeping, or getting rid of the jury in the justice system. That is the end for the content guide for this video tutorial, on the question about jury. What do you think about it? How would you go about answering it? Do you have any questions? Do let me know by commenting below. Do check out part 2 of this video tutorial, where I will go through with you a sample essay on this question. I will put a link to it in the description below. If you find this video tutorial useful, please like, share and subscribe to my channel for more.